Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today I am going to talk about something that I keep seeing in forums, threads, people asking, things like that, and that is, why is cybersecurity so hard? And the reality is, it's very easy and very hard depending on who you are and what your goals are, and we're going to talk about that. So first off, hit that like button, hit that sub button. We're almost to 14K. That's way more than I ever asked for and what I thought could happen. So I'm hoping to keep going. I'm hoping to even possibly get to 20 this year. I didn't expect it, but hey, anything's possible. So let's do it. After you guys take care of that, make sure you check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. The Discord, we do weekly live streams, and then the Patreon, obviously, you get exclusive content, one-on-ones, things like that. So let's get into it. First things first. Here's one of the reasons it's so hard right here. This is straight from CompTIA's website. I didn't even have to search anything. I just said, I Googled what jobs do you get with Security Plus. Here is 6 cybersecurity jobs you get. Keyword is could get with Security Plus. Look at what they're telling you. Here's the only one that I think they're being realistic about. And what I mean is, so it says security engineer, analyst, admin, sysad, and sec specialist. Now, why do I think this is part of the problem? Firstly, it's a fake sales pitch, okay? They're trying to get you to buy their cert, okay? Could you get those jobs? Theoretically, yes, you could find a job and get lucky. But the reality is, with zero experience and only Security Plus, any company would be insane to hire you for these positions. And that doesn't mean it can't happen. You could easily find a startup or someone that can't pay you what the industry standard is and things like that. You can find a job. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you want to progress your career and do it the right way, which is getting experience and working your way up and getting certs as you go with experience, This is the problem, because it's not just me saying this. I actually have over here, I'm going to pull it up for you guys. Look at this. This is YouTube. Okay, and I'm not dogging on any of these guys, because these guys are probably trying to do YouTube themselves full time. It's not a goal of mine, so I don't worry if, I get the views or not. These guys, that's what they're doing. They're getting clickbait. They're getting views. All I typed in was cybersecurity certification, and look at this. Okay, this guy, first off, cybersecurity certifications for beginners. Okay, so he's going to cover some stuff. I don't know any of these guys, but right here, purchase my bug bounty course. Okay, so he's basically probably advertising for some of his courses. I don't hate on this at all. No problem. Okay, so that one I don't mind, because he's just talking about certs. I didn't watch the video. This one I don't mind. Is the worth it? Here, don't like this. It's clickbaity. It's fake. He's going to judge the certs all the way up to S tier, right? And then you're going to go and be like, I need this cert, right? Look at this one. Cybersecurity analyst cert. Whatever. And if you want to be an analyst, get these certs. That's what they're saying. I hate that. Okay. Right here, 0 to hero. Now, he did say, how would I learn cybersecurity if I had to start over? I don't hate that, but I'm just saying it's a fake video, right? This one, from beginner to pro, right? That's not how cybersecurity works. So all of this is being said because what they're doing is they're using a platform that they know gets views and they know that people want, and they're trying to bait you into watching the videos. Now, I'm not saying they don't have interesting information or important information or but the reality is that's not how cybersecurity will ever work. It can't work that way, because if I just hire you off the street and all you have is a Security Plus or a cert that this guy told you or a cert that this guy told you or this, right? You have zero knowledge as far as on the job. What does that mean to me? The example I always use is DNS. Almost everyone that's in IT or cyber is familiar with DNS. If I asked you what DNS is, you probably could tell me exactly what it is. That's great. If I gave you a keyboard and a mouse and I said, okay, I need you to stand up a DNS server and put these entries into it, and I need it, 200 A records, 400 quad A records, some MX records, these TXT records, whatever, right? You would be like, what the hell do I do, right? That isn't good. If you say, I understand DNS, I know DNS, you should be able to apply it. If you can't apply it, you don't have DNS down, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But these people will sell you the lie that is, if you read it in a book, you have the skill. That's just not reality. So this is the first one, okay? And to give you an example, I just went to Test Gorilla, and these are basic help desk questions, right? Here's another problem that I see. So the first thing I see is the lie that is, get this cert and boom, you have a job. That makes it so disheartening and so, what's the right word? Disingenuous is the word I'm looking for. It makes it so disingenuous to sell that lie to people, because what happens is these people get these certs, they spend their own hard-earned money, they go to college, whatever, they're spending their own money, and then they come out and they're like, why can't I get a job? The market's too hard, I'm getting screwed, blah, blah, blah. You're not getting screwed. You were lied to the whole way through the process. That's what's happening. So here's another problem I see. People then do get into cybersecurity, and they try to skip. And so a lot of people will just keep applying until someone gets them hired. And then now they're a security analyst or a security whatever. But they skipped all the learning experience. So then you'll go here and you'll ask them questions like this. You have a shared wireless password with a vendor who's visiting your office. You can connect using the same password. However, despite having the correct password, the vendor cannot connect to the wireless network. So what is the answer, right? Access control list is denying. Is the IP pool exhausted? Are you out of IPs? What do you think? So you go to this, and we can just click whatever, right? And then go to the next one. You manage small Windows 2019 network that has a DHCP server. One of the Windows clients has been using DHCP server. One of the Windows clients is not able to connect the DHCP server. It will use the APIPA IP address. It will use the default gateway. A lot of you guys are thinking, well, these are pretty easy questions, but I bet you 90% of people applying for cybersecurity jobs that don't have any experience can't answer these basic questions. And it goes back to the perpetuated lie that's being told. And the reason for that this is so alarming, these are super simple questions. I'm not talking about these questions in particular. I'm talking about the background knowledge that you get from learning and going through working in the industry for years. I use the example a lot as a surgeon, right? If you're a surgeon, you went through med school, all that, right? But you learned the surgery piece of it after you became a doctor, right? It's like cybersecurity. You get a job in IT, you get a degree in IT, whatever. Then you start learning the actual job, right? It's just the reality. There's no way a school could keep up on current trends and standards. It's just not possible. So we have to rely on experience. You have to. So when people say it's so hard, it's hard because you were taught stuff for 4 years in a degree program that is probably 7 or 8 years old that doesn't exist anymore, or it is non-usable. So that's one of the reasons it's hard, because people are throwing money into these colleges that aren't reality. So that's a big one. And then they can't answer these basic questions. And why is that a problem? Because this is where cybersecurity gets really hard. You're on the job and someone says, like, look at this one. That's the same thing. So let's go to right here. These are pen testing questions. Okay. I want you to look at these. These are pen testing interview questions. What is MTU Windows size segment? Okay. Describe the three-way handshake. Okay. How many hosts are in a /27 network? Describe DHCP. Now, here's the thing. Most of you will look at that and be like, those don't have anything to do with pen testing. Wrong. This is what pen testers should know, because all pen testing is knowing systems so well that you can find flaws in them. That's all cybersecurity, offensive cybersecurity is. What port does ping work over? How does a buffer overflow work? These are just knowing the actual system so well that you know the flaws in them. That's all it is. It's not the opposite. People want to learn the flaws and then work on trying to figure out how to use the systems to the best of its ability. No, learn the systems, build yourself up, and then you know the flaws based on just knowledge of the systems. And that's why so many people have struggled with this, because they do the opposite. They get into security and then they try to learn the fundamentals that take 5-6 years for some people to learn. And they're like, well, this is so hard. Like, my boss is asking me for this. My boss wants this. I don't know this. I'm trying to figure out this project, da, da, da. Well, it's so hard because you skipped so many steps to try and get to where you are, and now you're in over your head. That's why it's so hard. I saw a thing on Reddit the other day that said, does cybersecurity ever get easier? And one of the people said, I have to study nonstop. I have to do this all the time, blah, blah, blah. I have to keep up on all this stuff. And someone described it perfectly in the comments. I can't remember. I wish I could give them credit. I don't remember their name. But one of the things they said in the comments was simple. It doesn't get easier because you have to keep up on it, but it gets easier to ingest the information, because what happens is you understand the concept so well that when you read a report of a new attack that came out, you can understand it right away. You don't have to read it 6 times. You don't have to go study what's this, what's that, what was that. You don't have to do any of that. You actually understand it right away. So that is why it does get a little bit easier, but then also can bite you in the butt if you skip those steps. So that's another reason cybersecurity is so hard, because people try to skip steps. There is no shortcut in life. And that's the problem with cybersecurity, is everyone heard money. That's what happened. About 5 years ago, everybody heard money, 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 money. And people getting into something for money, they don't want it bad enough. Why? Because it's for money. Money doesn't make you that happy. You know, that's got nothing to do with it. They want in it for money, but they don't want to do the hard work. For instance, a surgeon, back to the example we're talking about. A surgeon goes in, and I bet he loves surgery. I bet he does. I bet he loves it. But that's like his whole thing, right? Or her. That's their thing. But I bet you that's a fraction of their job. A fraction. And I bet you there's so many things that go in besides the surgery. I bet they have to do prescription paperwork. They have to fill out reports. I bet they have to do prep for surgery. They have to go get desterilized all the time, or sterilized all the time. They have to do all this extra stuff all the time, work on call, all these things they hate. But it's worth it because they love that little part so much. And that's what hacking is. That's what cybersecurity is. It is doing all the little things to put you in a position to get to do the best thing you can ever do, which is the most fun you can have at work. So it's not always easy. It's not always fun. But people that skip these steps, they take the little shortcuts. That's the people that struggle. That's the people that really are like, man, this is so hard. It's hard because you don't like what you're doing. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. Or you're just not a strong mental person, which sounds insulting, but it's just reality. You have to change your mindset. You have to be disciplined to stay in cybersecurity and stay relevant, which leads me to my next point. My next point is cybersecurity is only hard for people that want to keep progressing. And what I mean by that is you can find a job that you like, stay there, and not really be that good of a worker. And I'm not saying be just a shitbag, but just be a good worker that's good at their job. You can stay there, right? And that's okay for people. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. But the people that struggle a lot with cybersecurity are usually the people that are continually trying to push further. They want to keep going, and it's going to keep getting harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. That's just life, and that's just the reality of any job that you're trying to progress at. So now let's go ahead and talk. We're going to talk about the actual other reason that cyber is very hard for even the most intelligent human beings, okay? All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry, I switched to my standing desk. So let's talk about why is it so hard to basically not only get in cybersecurity, but once you're in it, also, why is it so hard? We talked about before how the skill sets usually are your jumping steps, but let's add in this, right? So this is what a typical org chart looks like. Now, most of you know, if you've worked in, this is an older probably model. It says 2024, but it's a template. So keep in mind, most of the time you have a CEO, but then you're gonna have like a CTO, a CISO, CFO, those type of things here, then a VP or a director, whatever. Either way. So here's the problem, right? Here's one of the problems. Let's say let's see if we can find a security person in here. There's not really a security person in here. That's fine. Let's say this was a security person, a security analyst, or a security engineer here. This Beyonce Johnson here, right? She reports up here to Bernadine, who's a director, okay? When she is communicating things, it's like playing telephone, okay? She's being very technical because a security analyst is going to be technically sound, and she's being very technical. She's going to say, hey, the FTP server isn't using SFTP, it's not encrypted, and therefore we're at security risk of man-in-the-middle attack. Boom. And the director goes, okay. And the director, if they're a good director, they go, that made no sense to me. Explain it to me like a third grader, right? But if they're not, or if they're just like a director that has a little bit of understanding, like they pick out pieces, this happens all the time. They'll pick out pieces of what they think they understand, or they think they know what you're talking about. And then when they're relaying the information, it doesn't get relayed right. So therefore, it either A, makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about, B, makes the concern seem like it's not a big deal, or C, it just gets completely lost, and then therefore you don't change anything. So these things happen so often. I can't tell you how many times I've seen lack of communication skills and lack of documentation skills in security positions. It's the two biggest skill sets that I think is the most important skill set in cybersecurity, no matter what position you're in, because if you can't relay the information, I don't care if you're the most technical human being in the world, if you can't relay it properly to the proper people, you're useless to me. And therefore, that happens all the time. And when that happens, I see it all the time. People go, oh, it's so frustrating. It's like working with two hands behind my back, because every time I want to make a change, nothing gets done. Every time I put a request in to do something, it doesn't get done. Every time this happens, it doesn't get done. Think about yourself. Are you portraying it properly? Are you really showing the risks? Are you really showing documentation that shows you put effort into this? Or did you just hop on a call with your director, your VP, your CISO, and say, hey man, I want to do this. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's got 5 million things going on, so he just ignores you. Okay? That is another challenge, a hurdle that I see all the time and people don't understand. The other piece that I see all the time is this piece here, the business, the CEOs, the directors, the VPs. There is a larger entity than security, okay? And what I mean by that is, yes, there are times where you might be like beating your head and saying, hey, God, I'm telling you this is a risk. I'm telling you. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. Guess what? The business has other viewpoints on things. They might say, and keep in mind, when I say business, I'm not just talking about businesses. I'm talking about if you're in military, if you're in infrastructure as far as like SCADA systems, if you're in critical infrastructure, if you're in whatever business you're in, that's the business, okay? But what you don't see is what the CEO, the CTO, the CFO, the CIO, all of them, what they see. You don't see that. And what I mean by that is, you might say, this server has a vulnerability that is so easy to take over, and I'm telling you it's a risk. I'm telling you da-da-da. And what you don't see is that the person that owns this server is over here, this director, and he's looked into it, and he can't change it yet, because if he changes it, it breaks an application, and then that application actually drives business, and then therefore he would lose millions for every hour it's down. And so he's trying to come up with a foolproof plan of testing and all of that, and he doesn't have a QA or dev environment to test on. So what you don't see is all of that, right? So it gets very difficult, because you're sitting here beating your head saying, I know what I'm doing, but nobody's listening to me. And that's a challenge, right? It's very hard to live in that environment where you're saying, and I see this all the time where people go, I left because I couldn't make any changes, dude. Nobody listened to me. You don't see the bigger picture. And I'm not saying that it's always right, that the bigger picture is always right. I'm saying maybe ask better questions, have better documentation, explain better, work on your verbal communication skills, work on your documentation skills. You should be doing these all the time. And I do this all the time. I will volunteer to host things so that I can work on my verbal communication skills. I will purposely run things by people that I know, because I know they don't have a cybersecurity understanding, and say, does this make sense? Could you understand this? And if they say yes, absolutely perfect. That's what level we need to be on. Work on these things, because that's another thing that I see all of the time. I see people trying to jump and get a cheat sheet into cyber. And that's why it's so hard for you, because even if you get in, it's not what you thought. And it's much, much harder for you to get that. Now, the last piece I'm going to talk on why cyber is so difficult is this. Okay? CVEs. This is just an example. There's vulnerabilities out there that are 0 days, that aren't even published, all that stuff. I put this in for the publishing date. This is the last 3 months. And if you look, there's 8,717 in the last 3 months, according to this, right? These all have dates, 2024, 2020, some would be 2023, obviously. And if you look, there's 10 plus pages. These are all in the last 3 months, okay? These are CVEs that are being published saying this is a vulnerability, okay? If there's 8,000 in the last 3 months, how in the world can you, as a defender or offensive person, keep up with all of that, right? This is where I see people say cyber is so hard too, because they say, I can't keep up. You know, how I can't grind for the next 40 years of my life and sit here and figure out what this does, what this does, what this does, what this does, boom, 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 etc. You're right. You can't. You have to tailor your activity to what suits your business need, your company need, your industry need, whatever your environment is, whether you work solo, whether you own a company, whether you own or you work in a business environment, a corporation, whatever. You tailor your needs to that, because it's not possible to memorize all of this, to work on all of this, right? Nobody knows everything. And that's why some people like myself love cybersecurity, because I can never figure it all out. And so I'll forever have something to do. But some people, they say, I just can't grind for that long. You don't necessarily have to. Find your niche. Find what makes you happy, right? If you're struggling with, if you're a pen tester, for instance, right? And this is why I left pen testing, because I didn't like doing this all the time. If you're a pen tester and you're keeping up on techniques, but the very advanced, the very top echelon of people are grinding all day, every day. They are working their butts off, and they're saying, okay, I know a new vulnerability came out. Let me find it. Let me figure it out. They're looking for 0 days themselves. They're doing this, right? You can do that for a long time, and some people can do that forever. But some people say, okay, that's great, but I don't want to grind this out forever, right? And they say, I'm watching my manager make more money than me, but I'm doing all the legwork, the technical legwork. Why am I doing this, right? And then they'll switch over and try to be a manager. Or they'll say, I'm watching an auditor come audit me, and he's making more than me. They go be an auditor, right? That's why cyber becomes so hard, because understand there's stages to it. And when I say there's stages, look at every pen tester that's large, okay? Look at people like Cyber Mentor, right? He pen tested, right? How many years did he do it before he started his own company, right? Does he still do it? Probably, but he does it like me when he wants to, right? It's not as stressful. It's not as hard. It's not as intense when you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to, right? If your manager's saying, dude, you're messing up, you got to get this done, you got to get this done, that's you have to. If you're enjoying it and finding the stuff you like, that's you want to, right? So that's another thing. Keep that in mind when you're doing this, because there's different niches. Find your niche and find what you enjoy. Don't do it for money, because that makes it 10 times harder. If you find your niche and you find what you're good at and what you like, it's so much easier, right? Let's say you're a pen tester and you're like, man, this is exhausting. I can't do this every day because I've just been grinding and grinding for years. Maybe pen testing is not your long-term career. Maybe you want to switch over and be a blue teamer. Maybe you want to be an engineer. Maybe you want to be an analyst. Maybe you want to be a manager for pen testers. Maybe you want to write the contracts for that. Maybe you want to be a project manager. Maybe there's millions of pieces you can do in cybersecurity. And I see all the time, people see pen tester and they think it's cool, and that's what they go for. And that's just a bad way to do it, because you don't know what it takes to be a pen tester yet, for starters, because you're trying to skip the basics. And when you do that, if you do get your wish and you be that pen tester, you will realize how exhausting it can be if you want to be good at it. Now, I'm talking to the people that want to be successful. I'm not talking to the people that want to become a pen tester, click some buttons and run their tools and move on. That's not the same thing. I'm talking about the people that are going to be exhausted from grinding because they want to be the best, right? So these are the challenges I see in cybersecurity. Do I have a fix for all of them? I don't have a fix for all of them. I have a fix for some of them. The first one, this one here, the CVE issue, or the fact that is so much grinding and learning, Find your niche. If you find what you enjoy, you won't be struggling to keep up with the newest stuff because you enjoy it. This is what you like to do, right? You'll find yourself doing it after hours and not for pay because you enjoy it. So it's not hard to keep up with. Okay, so that's one thing. What's the solution for dealing with business processes and all these different processes that are holding you back? Work on your communication skills. You can't control how this person at the top echelon communicates or understands, but you can control how you portray that information. And if you can portray it in a way that makes sense to them and shows that they need it, you get what you want. Just saying, if you can do it. Third one, stop trying to find the cheat code for getting past into cyber and skipping the IT fundamentals piece. Stop trying to figure out how can I get straight to cybersecurity. Stop buying into these cybersecurity jobs that you can get with one cert and no experience. Stop buying into this crap, because the more you buy into it, the more they're going to sell it. The more they're going to sell it. They're going to businesses, they're selling it to them as well. Oh, well, these guys know what they're talking about because our test covers XYZ. You hire the guy and he has no idea what he's talking about, right? Don't buy into that, because it hurts your career to take a position. Don't get me wrong. If someone wants to pay you $200,000 because you have Security Plus, I'm not saying don't take that job by any means. Do you. Do what's best for you. What I'm saying is it hurts your position to go ahead of where your actual abilities are. I'm not saying sometimes, you take a little leap and you thrive in that environment. There's definitely people that sink or swim. And if you're a swimmer, maybe you can handle it. But what I'm saying is you don't want to get into an environment that's above your technical capabilities, and then you look bad because your performance evals are going to be bad. You're going to struggle to get promotions. You're going to basically take your career and slow it down because you can't impress anybody because you don't have the technical capabilities yet. So do what's best for you, but keep that in mind. The other thing, these boot camps, it's the same thing as the first piece. I can't fix this because I don't have the solution, because as long as cyber sells, people are going to sell it, right? And here's the reality. For $15,000 in 24 weeks part-time, I can teach you how to be cyber, how to do everything cyber, right? We'll teach you how to do whatever. I don't know if this one even says, oh yeah, and you'll get free prep tools for the certification voucher. Heck yeah, let's click on it. I'm just curious, what certification voucher do I get? Let's see. Do we even see one on here? Oh, it's an authorized partner. Well, look at that. I've been saying how it's a business. CompTIA partners with this company. Interesting. Oh, and look at that. You get your choice of Security Plus, Network Plus, Linux Plus, Server Cloud Plus, blah blah blah. So for $15,000, I'll teach you Security Plus. That's what they just said. Okay? Security Plus is $300. Stop buying into these sales pitches. Security Plus is $300, and I use this example all the time in my Discord, but I'm just going to use it again because it's 100% accurate, and I'm telling you the truth. In the military, they put you into a room. They give you the Security Plus book. You study for 8 hours a day. You get 2 weeks. You go take the test. If an 18-year-old kid that has never touched a computer before, and there's some of them out there, I've seen it, can go take Security Plus for $300, and he uses a book and 2 weeks, why are you paying $15,000 for 24 weeks? These are scams. And I'm not saying you won't learn something. I'm saying you can do the same thing for less money, and the only thing you're buying is right here, career services. They will place you into a job. For $15,000, they might place you into a help desk role. If you guys are wondering why cyber is so hard, it's because of the business of cyber. I don't have a fix for this. Cyber is so big because attacks happen all the time. It protects the company. It's the best thing you can do to protect your company, How do I stop people from selling it? I don't have that solution, and I don't know that solution. So I'm happy to hear you guys out. If you have a solution, please put it in the comments because I'm happy to hear it out. But the other pieces, I have some recommendations. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm saying this is my opinion, and this is why I think cybersecurity is so hard and why you're struggling with it so hard, because you're looking at it from the wrong perspective, and you're focusing on the wrong things because you're being sold. So thank you guys. Hopefully this helps you guys, and hopefully someone out there, this changes the way you view something and you find what you like, not what makes the most money. Thanks, guys.